Okay, it's time for the debrief here. First time deer hunting in Coburn Marsh near Adams, actually Friendship in Adams County, Wisconsin. Some takeaways that I had were that every time you go, it's a great learning experience. For example, I learned that you can park on the road, which sounds ridiculous, but my idea was that it would be legal to park on the shoulder, so that's why I had the whole bike idea. I realized that you should really have the elevation on your map to denote elevation, because that helps a lot. Otherwise you'd be mucking around in the mud and the water all day. Some other takeaways were just the wilderness and the silence. I didn't talk to anyone really for 2 days, and that's pretty interesting. I recommend that to anyone. And actually I found an environmentalist who, his name is John Francis. He's an environmentalist from I think he lived in California for a while. I think he's from Philadelphia. Anyway, I definitely recommend you looking him up. He talks a lot about being in the wild and being in the environment and being very aware of your surroundings. Talking with, having your vote in terms of dollars, money that you spend, and being conscious of where that goes. And really it's about the stories, and I'll tell you 2 stories that I had, my encounters, and I think I mentioned them in chapter 3. But the first encounter I had with the deer was the first day. I was in the low-lying areas of the marsh, and as you're mucking through, you can't hear anything other than the muck that your boots are making and the rattling of the leaves. So you walk for a ways and then stop and listen. So I walked for a ways and then stopped to listen. Well, I kept hearing some mucking around in a thicket to my left. Well, this thicket was so thick you couldn't even imagine, and it was embedded in water and mud, so I heard them, but I couldn't get to them, type of thing. So I continued on, and this morning, by the way, was the opener morning, was one of the coldest on record. So that created a frozen water effect for the first, a few millimeters or whatever. So I was walking along, and I was always the first one to cross the path because the ice wasn't broken up. Well, I happened to notice that this particular area that I was walking, and by the way, I was walking on deer paths 90% of the time. So I was walking and it was broken up, and I took a look up, and sure enough, a doe had been running in the distance. Well, at this point I'm in mud up to my knees, and I get her in my sights, and I really didn't have a great shot, I don't think. Maybe if I don't know, it's hard to tell, but I probably could have taken a shot, and I know most people would have, but it was a little bit too far away. But I was in the mud, and she was going across solid ground, and so no giving chase, no nothing like that. Hey. So those are 2 deer, I guess, that I heard, and then when I was making my way to the entry point, I think I scared 2 deer when I was riding bike in the dark, which is interesting. I don't recommend that to anybody. But Larry Phillips sent over their deer notes from their deer camp, and I want to give a shout out to Mark Phillips, who had an awesome buck that he scored this year. And it kind of is a summary of a really good year for him. It's got a brand new baby, Alice, and a a wonderful buck. I mean, what goes better than those two things, right? And, you know, today at work I've heard a lot of stories about different things. There was a story of a 13-year-old girl who shot 3 bucks in the course of an hour. Another story of 2 bucks that were fighting so bad that actually one of them died and one of them lived. But I think that happens more times than not. I'm going to continue on the muzzle loading season. I'm really looking forward to that. And the one thing I did shoot at and hit was a tree this weekend because I got all done and I still had my black powder and bullet in the chamber and nothing to shoot at, and I couldn't just leave it in there, so I shot at a deer, or I'm sorry, wish I shot at a deer, I shot at a tree. And it was a hell of an accurate shot and loud as you couldn't believe, because you put 100 grains behind 223 grain bullet. Some things I've got here I can show you. Here's the map. I don't know if you can see this here. So just to recap what happened, went down a path through here, and as I was leaving yesterday at about 1 o'clock because it was raining, found out that one guy got a young buck over here somewhere, and where I was, and I looped around probably to about here-ish, and then followed this ridge line and this ridge line back. Someone got a 10-pointer back in here, and then another young one here. That's just what I heard when I was leaving. I'm sure many more deer were had, but those were the only ones that I heard of in the few sentences that I talked to someone. Some other props I got here. This is I guess it's a deer hunting license holder, which you have to put on your back. I did not know that, so I got one of those. I recommend Aggressive Whitetail Hunting. I haven't read it yet. I read another one by someone else, but Greg Miller is a pretty well-known guy, I guess, in the deer hunting world. If I were to change one thing, deer hunting wise, it would be to allow hunters to bring extremely ferocious dogs with them. Something like, you know, what would guard the gates of hell type of thing. You know, fangs and just bloodthirsty and ferocious. Someone that you could have as a companion while you're there hunting, and so aggressive, like you're aggressive. Like we were very aggressive this weekend, but to have a companion that's so aggressive that you'd have to muzzle him until the point of attack. He was so enraged and ferocious. That's one thing that I would add is to the law, to allow hunters to bring along hunters to bring along a dog with them, a ferocious creature, half, you know, bear and half lion, and I'd like to bring out the red so that you can see what I'm talking about here as an example of what we could bring hunting. And with that, I'm going to conclude, and that's about it. I'm looking forward to muzzleloading season. I'm going to try to hit that, and until next year. So it was a really interesting experience. Leave some feedback on the YouTube notes. I'd like to hear any comments that people have, and I'll leave you with the ferocious red. Hey, what's up, buddy? You going deer hunting with me? Huh? What's this? That's your bear? That's your baby? Oh. Alright, guys. See you later.